Your presentation on WELW. The views and opinions presented on this program do not necessarily coincide with those of our ownership, management, or staff.
Welcome to Mondays with Malta and Ray Malavic too. We're live at Cleats in Menor, our home away from home, and we have a show of shows here tonight. It's our Brown Show, and presented by Jack Borky each and every year. Jack usually presents two shows on Mondays with Malta. Jack, our sponsor since we started 10 years ago, and Jack does a great job. Tonight we have the one and only Coach Sam Rutigliano, and just maybe one of the finest backs that Cleveland ever had, and that is Greg Pruitt. So we got Greg Pruitt and Sam Rutigliano. You all driving around, stop in. We're at Cleats in Menor, where they are the #1 sports bar in Lake County the past 4 years. So we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to fix the Browns. We're going to talk about the cardiac kids. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff here tonight. And make sure you come on in and enjoy the food and enjoy the show, because it's going to be a good one. Tonight's program is brought to you by D&W Goods. Dennis Phillips, owner-operator, 440-342-2002. D&W will handle all your team needs, from embroidering to silk screening. Dan made the shirts that all three of us have on up here, Ray and Glenn, our technician. Pepco, Jack Borky, owner-operator, located at 33210 Lakeland Boulevard. Pepco is a wholesaler distributor of electrical and data, telecommunications, utility, and high voltage. You can reach Pepco's East Lake office at 440-946-3790. Jack will be programming our 12th show here tonight, along with probably a show in February. So make sure you come on out tonight and check this out, because Sam Rutigliano's here, and boy does he have the stories, along with Greg Pruitt. Clements Construction. Mike Clements, owner-operator. A lot of roofs need repaired. Mike Clements is the best in the business. 20 years on the job. Mike actually pounds the nails. And when you can find a roofer that actually does the work himself along with his workers, you know the job's going to get done right. 2 jobs that he's done right on my mail route, 297-31 Fairway and 345 Fairway. Check him out. He's the best. Clements Construction, 440-951-2033. Matrix Tool and Machine, Rich Wilson, owner-operator, proud sponsors of Mondays with Malta. Menor High School Sports, Menor Middle School Lacrosse. You can reach Rich at 440-255-0300. Rich also is a huge supporter of Lake Catholic's Chinese auction. Menor Family Foods, owner-operator P.J. Conway, located on the corner of Lakeshore and Route 306 in Menor. Menor Family Foods always has exactly what I need, is what one of the customers said when I interviewed them. You know what? He is the small guy in the grocery business, so stop in and see him at the corner of Lakeshore and Route 306. P.J. Conway, Menor Family Foods, big sponsor for Mondays with Malta. A good friend of mine and an ex-classmate. 440-946-3788. Forenza Stone, owner-operator Mike Fimiani. You have to take your husband into Forenza Stone. And as I talked to one of the wonderful Borky daughter-in-laws, as I was a resident with her in Willowick when she was growing up, Penza, and take Jack into Forenza Stone. They have the most beautiful granite tops. They have a $30,000 bathroom in there. So check it out. Tell them Charlie sent you. That's Forenza Stone, located right on the interchange over there at Route 2 and Vine Street. You can reach them at www.forenzastone.com. How about Judy Moran? She's our sponsor. She made it. Sponsored the show this past 2 segments, our spring one and our fall one. Judy Moran won, and we want to congratulate her. And last but not least, Kramer Printing, 244-205-1199. Printing faster than the speed of life, he calls it, located at 8634 Station Street. Lenny Kramer, owner-operator, digital printing, brochures, labels, political signs, you name it, they print it. Again, 440-205-1199. Before we get to our fabulous guests, we'd be remiss if we didn't say congratulations to the Menor Cardinals. 63-56. They're moving on. I'll be calling the game this Saturday at Byers Field against St. Ignatius. What do you got there?
What a game. Well, these were our picks from last week, so I think since we're talking football and Cleveland Browns, it's only fitting that we go over our selections. We don't usually do this, but we had a little time last week, and I got to admit, you got me by one because it started off with the Menor St. Ed game. We all gave our reasons. I took St. Ed's, and I'll tell you, with about 5 minutes to go in that game, I was sitting pretty good, but you can't count out Mitch Trubisky and company. What a comeback. 11 playoff records were smashed in that game. Most this, most that, most this. And I'll tell you what, it was a classic, maybe the greatest game. You're hearing some old-time, the greatest game ever played in Ohio high school football. So anyway, you got me there. You took the Cardinals, but then we were right on everything else. Chardon against Kenston. We both like Chardon. They're, of course, advancing. Congratulations to them. They'll be taking on is it Aurora, I believe, coming up? Okay. And then you had St. Iggy and North Royalton. We took both of us, St. Ignatius, and boy, that was the only blowout. I mean, was it 50-something to nothing? So,
and had 7 touchdowns.
And you know what? The Willoughby South, of course, got beat by North Royalton, and I'll tell you what, it wouldn't have been that if Willoughby South was playing Ignatius, but that's the way it is. North Royalton won, and now they're watching as Iggy goes on and plays Menor. We both picked Chagrin Falls over Ravenna, and Chagrin Falls is still in the hunt, of course. They'll be in action this week. And, of course, everybody's favorite, the little guy, Kirtland, trying for back-to-back state championships. All they are is undefeated. They already knocked off the number 1 team in the state, and they'll be, of course, in action Saturday, too. So how about that? 4 area teams that we call a lot of their games alive in the playoffs.
And we'll be calling that Saturday night game as Sam and Greg, you can start walking up. Sam, you're going to sit right there. Greg, right there. And I've got a little breaking news, too, for Sam right there, for you guys, and that is opening night next year at East Lake North will be the Kirtland Hornets. How do you like that?
Kidding. Now that is good news.
All right, I'm going to.
That is good news.
Switch up some microphones here.
A graduate of Kirtland. So.
Okay.
That's Amy who's with us tonight. She's a graduate of Kirtland Hornets. And
now it gives me great pleasure. Let's hear it for Sam Rutigliano and Greg Pruitt. Welcome to Mondays with Malta. Sam, Greg, it's great to have you out here tonight. And Sam, a couple weeks ago you did a show with Ray, in fact, with on WLW. With Ray Samich, you did a show not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, and that was nice of you. That was Hurricane Sandy night.
Yeah. Well, I've never been here before, and it's a pleasure to be here, pleasure to be with you, and especially on a Monday night.
We appreciate it. You and I talked last October, and we try to get you on in the spring, but you're a snowbird. You go out in someplace really nice and sunny, and we had a pretty good winter, though, last year. But we made it happen this year, and we're really excited to have you on, because when we have Brown shows and on Hall of Fame shows, and you two are Hall of Famers and wonderful just representation of the Browns. We love to hear the stories, so we want to pick your brain for some great stories here tonight, and for our listeners at home and on the internet at www.wlw.com. But we're really, really happy that you're here. And Greg, you look like you can still play. For crying out loud, you keep yourself in great shape.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
He can play as an offensive lineman.
Well, I was going to say, he could play, but a different position.
I could probably still fat catch a punt.
Greg, so we'll pick your brain later on in the show here, and you tell some stories that Sam never wanted to be told. So, Greg, congratulations just on a great career, and
Thank
just
you.
Again, you see your name popping up, you're here, you're there, you're promoting the community and the Cleveland Browns. We love it.
Well, I've always wanted to be involved with the community. I feel as a kid, the reason I got the breaks I got because somebody reached back and made me do the right things long enough to realize what things to do in order to give yourself an opportunity, and I'm just doing the same thing.
Sam, later on in the show we'll fix the Browns, but let's talk about some of the things that were so exciting in your life. First, your wife of 50 years. Let's hear it for Barbara's here tonight, too. I think that's pretty exciting. Wow. Fantastic. And I love how you met her. She was a nurse. She took care of you, and you ended up marrying her.
That's right. Married for 58 years.
Wow. Fantastic. And Barbara's
She's
here.
not going to like what I'm going to say, but divorce was never an option. Murder, but never divorce.
Murder, but never an option. Divorce. Well, that's fantastic. You know, when 1 out of 3 marriages make it, 58 years says an awful lot. And, you know, in that 58 years, you moved a couple of times, too. What was it, 19 or 20 or something like that?
We moved 19 times. My kids went to 23 schools, and she bought 13 houses.
13. So you had
we're in Wade Hill now for the rest of our life.
Oh, it's beautiful there.
That's a long time.
Does that mean she had to pack 19 times, or you had to help her?
No, I was gone. I was gone. She had to sell the house and buy the house, find out what school they were going to go to, and all that stuff.
All right, Sam.
Directly related due to coaching, Sam? I mean, those moves?
Pardon me?
Mainly due to coaching, was those moves you made? I mean, going from one place to another?
Oh, yeah. You know, well, I got fired twice.
Okay. Well, that comes with the territory, right?
Yeah.
And Greg, did you stay in this at once? Well, you were from the Browns. You went on to the Raiders, right?
Yeah,
and you won a Super Bowl ring.
I kept my home here. I actually like Cleveland better than I like L.A. I got used to the changing of seasons, and in L.A. you tend to not know what time of the year it is.
And how many years did you spend with the Raiders?
3 years with the Raiders.
And what year did you win the Super Bowl?
83.
83. Yeah. So you got your Super Bowl ring, and hoping someday we'll see this. You know, I tell my dad in 1964. Not my dad. Santa Claus put standing room only tickets in my stocking, and I'll tell you, I remember what you're going to love this sight. The fans carrying the goalposts to the Avenue after we won. They tore them down, and they were walking down Euclid Avenue. You know, I've read a little bit about your history, and Sam, the fans are very, very important to you. And let's touch on that, what it would mean to this town if we won a Super Bowl.
Well, I think that, you know, having been here now since 1978, when you think about 100,000 Browns backers, I got a guy that's from Beechwood, Ohio, who calls me 3 or 4 times a year, and he lives in Guam. And on Saturday nights, I go down and on home games and talk to Browns fans who fly from California, drive from New York, drive from New Jersey, drive from North Carolina. They are absolutely unbelievable. When you think about that they took the team away, and very frankly, the Browns backers and all over the world really empowered the NFL to bring a team back here, because it wasn't Chicago, wasn't LA, wasn't New York because of television, but the people here empowered them to bring a team back, and I hope I'm still here when they do get there and win it all. And I think, you know, I know we're going to talk about it, but Jim Haslam, the guy who bought the team, you know, nobody ever puts $1 billion on the table and rides shotgun. So I think from the very beginning, 14 years ago, that we needed to have that kind of leadership. You know, everything rises and falls on leadership. Anybody can steer a ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course. And you need it with an owner. And I hate to say it, just look at the Rooneys in Pittsburgh. You know, Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, 39 years, 470 wins, 6 Super Bowl wins. Mike Tomlin, been there 3 times. So, you know, consistency confirms authenticity, and I think we finally have that now after 14 years. We are right now, this is our 17th quarterback. From Paul Brown in 1946 to the 70s, we didn't have 6 or 7.
Wow. Greg, on the fans, for you, give us a little taste of what it was like jumping into the dog pound.
Oh, I mean, it was Well, as a player, you're happy you're a home team and not the visitors.
That's for sure.
And I got a lot of friends that play with other teams, and they echo that. This was a tough place to come and play, and that's what you want on your team, to feel like you're at home. And I think the Browns, the fans are very good. I think they're the best fans, and like Sam say, he's been everywhere. They are. And no matter where you're at in the world, you'll find a Cleveland Browns fan. And they deserve another win. And I'm a former player, but now I am a Browns fan. And I'm waiting for that to happen also.
Have you ever sat in a dog pound and watched a game now?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. Yes.
Because Golick said, when I retire, you'll see me in the stands in the dog pound watching a ball game.
Yeah.
Well, Sam, let's start with the Cardiac Kids. And 1980, your Coach of the Year. Just a memorable year. And obviously, Red Right 88, we really don't have to talk about. But let's just talk about, by the time mid-season came around, did you expect you were going to win? I mean, Brian Sipe was very special to you. I know that.
Well, in 1979, we were 9-7. And in the 16th game, we lost to Cincinnati, and we probably at 10-6 would have made it into the playoffs. So Art Modell and general manager Pete Hadhazy, who's the guy that I work with at New England, and he was really responsible for me getting the opportunity to come to Cleveland as the head coach. Well, we lost our first game in 1980 in New England. Then we came back on a Monday night and played the Houston Oilers, and we lost that game. And so I would go up to Art Modell's office after every game, win or lose. It was a lot nicer when we won. Both he and Peter Hadhazy that night felt like that it was over. And in the locker room, I said to the players, I think we can win 14 games. We won 11 out of 5, and most of them were in the final 2 minutes. And one was a game that we lost. If you remember, Mike Pruitt stuck his thumb in the ball, and Randy Gradishaw ran 101 yards. We were going in. It was a 14-point turnaround. We'd get 7, and they got 7 as a result of it. And then in Pittsburgh, we lost the game on one of those really bad calls. Pittsburgh's great because they really help handicapped people. They usually officiate the games. And I think, and so basically, we could have won 16. We could have won 14 out of those 16 games. And the guys came back and one at a time, and it was great. Because, the thing that was amazing is that here's a 13th round draft choice, Brian Sipe. And you got to it's kind of like, it's indefinable. Why was Tom Brady the 199th pick in the draft? Why was Drew Brees a second round draft choice? And I always think of, Brian was, he loved it. I didn't like it. I would prefer to be ahead by 4 touchdowns and drink Gatorade in the fourth quarter. But Greg can tell you that we had Greg, Calvin Hill, and Mike Pruitt, and they caught 148 passes between the three of them. Mike Pruitt caught 63, and I always like to say he dropped 63 also. But that year, 5 of our receivers, either out of the backfield or at tight end or wide receiver, were over 50 catches, which has never been done in the NFL. And Brian was a guy like, I think of Michael Jordan in the 7th game of an NBA championship, down by 1 with 5 seconds. 4 guys got grapefruits in their esophagus, and Michael Jordan said, "Give me the ball." And I think Greg would, and we told Marty Schottenheimer, I said at the beginning of the year, as a defensive coordinator, I want us to play as deep as the deepest, as wide as the widest. I want to take away big plays. We're not going to fumble the ball, but we're going to be in there with 2 or 4 minutes to go. And that's exactly what happened. And then as we won that first game and won the second game, it just was unbelievable. And you really got to feel when we came back that night at Cincinnati, after we beat Cincinnati, you got to remember now, Paul Brown was there, Forrest Gregg was there, and Art Modell wanted to win that game more than he wanted to breathe. And we came back that night and couldn't get into the jetway, and there were 35,000 people there at the airport. I was Coach of the Year for 2 years in a row, but I realized then, what a great place this is. And it came really from Paul Brown in 1946. Some young people that are here tonight don't realize what the Browns were like for 20 years with Paul Brown and Blanton Collier. Otto Graham played 10 years. None of those 10 years they were all championship years. So I'm just thrilled as I can be to come back and live here all this time and be a little bit part of it in television and radio. And by the way, television's great. You get paid, you don't have to win.
Coach, the name that came from what you're talking about, Cardiac Kids. I mean, let's face it, my heart skipped several beats every Sunday. But, you mentioned about how many wins you had from coming from behind the last 2 minutes game. Right. I've only coached on a high school level, but, I know on the young kids, that becomes contagious. I mean, all of a sudden you're down by 10 or 14 in the fourth quarter. Nobody panics because last week you came back. Yeah. And then when you win that game, now you got 2 of those, 3 of those. You agree with me? I mean, it just snowballs.
The fact that you've done it means that you can do it again.
Exactly.
And I actually believe that as we won more games that way, that the pressure was not on us. It was basically on the defense, because guys would come in and they would watch film and they would know our history and they know what our capabilities were. And sometimes if they were the number wasn't big enough in the fourth quarter, they felt like they was in trouble.
Yeah.
And for us, it wasn't a question of would we win. The question was who would make the play to win the game.
And every week it was different.
It was different.
Well, you hit on a good point, because it's what we're struggling with now, a losing culture. They hope to win on Sunday. We expected to win.
Yeah.
And then, once you do it, we beat Pittsburgh in 1980. And we said in training camp, if we're going to get in the playoffs, then we got to go through Pittsburgh. We beat them here 27-26. And so we came into the locker room and I said, I don't want anybody in here except all the players and all the coaches. And I said to the players, I can't give you what you just earned. The only thing I can say to you is freeze time for a few seconds and realize what you just did. You beat the best football team in the world. Now, let's make sure we don't forget that. Let's make sure that we hold on to that. And I think it's something, as a coach my whole life, high school, college, and in the National Football League, that it's something that once you attain it, you can't give it to them. From that point on, after we lost the second game, we were in every game, and as I said, we won 11 in the final 2 minutes of each game.
And I look at the Browns this year, and they've made a lot of mistakes to cost themselves games, but they've been in every game. And it's a kind of reminder for me as I watch, when they get to that moment where if they just make that play, they can actually come back and win the game. And it's frustrating for me because I know the possibility is there because we've done it so many times over and over and over again.
But Greg, that's right, because in a football game, people stand up 4 to 6 times. And right now, the only game, the New York Giants beat us by 14 points. Nobody else beat us more than 10 or 4 or 3 or 1 touchdown. And once you get past that, because what we're not doing right now is we are not making the big play at the big time. It's called crunch time. The drop passes. A guy, last week we go up ahead 19-14 and we got a guy, some dummy is offside. When you go into the red zone, the first thing you do is say, listen, I say GOP, protect the gaps, no offsides, no penalties, and let's run the football. You got a guy like Trent Richardson. If you can get 3.3 yards on every play, now you also have the opportunity to run play-action passes because you can't go down inside that 20-yard line 5 times and do the math. Come out with 15 instead of 35. They were down there 3 times. They came out with 21 points, and that's the game.
No question about it. Well, Sam, you said a phrase about freezing time. Well, you did freeze time for us fans with the Cardiac Kids because we can still remember like yesterday. And thanks for doing that because, it might not have been a Super Bowl championship, but it's memories like that has kept 100,000 Browns backers. And for those memories, I really appreciate what you've done there. I mean, it's been great. It really has. Well, although we haven't won now, but it gives us hope.
Well, thank you. I'm living it now on the other side of the fence. Yeah. And as I said before, I really think that in the 14 years that we've never had what we have now, we have an owner that paid the bill and proved that he wants to win. And just a sidebar to that, I played with his father at the University of Tennessee. I was a freshman, he was a senior. We won a national championship, and about 2-3 weeks ago, had an opportunity to go to their loge and talk to Jim Haslam's dad and Jim Haslam, and they're a great family. One of the sons is the governor of the state of Tennessee, and they were tremendously helpful at the University of Tennessee. And when he took over the job, they had 19,000 employees, and I think that he's now bought a house in Cleveland, and this is where he's going to be, and he's going to get it done. And he had some help now. He spent 4 years at Pittsburgh, so he knows what they're doing. Pittsburgh has had a guy named Jack Haley as their personnel guy. Now they got a guy named Colbert. Those are, look, it makes me sick when I think of us picking Kellen Winslow on the 8th round. We got a kid from Findlay, Ohio, who played at Miami of Ohio, Ben Roethlisberger, and he's taken him to 3 Super Bowls already.
I say that all the time.
In our back.
Sickening.
I say that all the time about Jack Lambert. Yeah. He was at Kent State. I mean, nobody's seen Jack Lambert.
Jack Lambert was a 2nd-round draft choice, and they all said was he wasn't big enough. Right. He was too skinny. Right. I mean, he was unbelievable.
They didn't send a coach down to check him out. I mean, he was a quarterback when he first came up. Then he became, because their star linebacker got hurt. He became the linebacker. The rest is history.
Well, you can't. The thing that comes with that is you can't do any surgery and see what he's got here.
Oh, yeah.
That's the important thing.
And how big the dog is, how big the fight is in the dog.
No question about it. Going back still to the Cardiac Kids days and some of the players, Hanford and Minnie. How about touching about the 2 of those? And those are the ones that got the dog pound started, right? Hanford and Minifield.
Hanford and Minifield.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. Well, they were. Hanford Dixon was a 1st-round draft choice from southern Mississippi. And then Frank Minifield was playing in the United States Football League. And I sent Marty Schottenheimer out to Denver to watch him play. And then Art Modell, the owner, said, he's too short. Al Davis called me and said he was too short. I said, well, I got news for you, Art. He may be too short, but he's a player. We're going to take him. And he agreed, because I had 2 things when I interviewed for the job with Art Modell. And the 2 things were, one, I was to name all the coaches because of the commonality of the job. And I had a list 5 deep. And then the second thing was myself and all the coaches would be involved in the acquisition of talent. Because I learned a long time ago as a coach, you never saw a jockey carry a horse across the finish line. You better have people.
No question about it. Well, we're at the bottom of the hour. We got more stories to tell. And if you're out driving around, stop in at Cleats. We've got Coach Sam Otigliano and Greg Pruitt. And we're www.wlw.com and WELW 1330 AM. You can catch us on. So tune in, and we'll be right back for much, much more right here on the Mondays with Malta and Ray Malavik, too.
Pat O'Brien Chevrolet has over 2,000 vehicles, and every one is GM preferred price, plus you keep the rebates up to $8,000. From Westlake to Vermilion, a short drive will save you time and money. Get upfront pricing only at Pat O'Brien Chevrolet. Pat O'Brien Chevrolet believes you do good by doing good. That's why on the first Saturday of each month, a pet adopt-a-thon will be held where the public can see dogs and cats available for adoption at each of Pat O'Brien Chevrolet's 4 convenient locations.
Know how to use the amazing LinkedIn social networking site? Do you know LinkedIn is the world's largest business site and a new member joins every second? LinkedIn help make 2013 your best year ever. Attend our all content, no fluff, Power of LinkedIn seminar on Friday, November 16th from 8 to 11 a.m. at Lakeland's new Holden Center. It's only $29 with a 100% money back guarantee. Call 440-974-8500. That's 440-974-8500 to leverage the power of LinkedIn.
Do you know the difference between a bumblebee, honeybee, carpenter bee, wasp, hornet, or yellow jacket? I don't, and I don't want to know. And I don't know about spiders, ants, or any other bugs and creepy crawly things. Ooh! But I know I don't want them in my home. Not around my family or my food. That's why I call the experts at Patent Pest Control. They're licensed and bonded and use only EPA-registered materials. Be wise. Patentize with Patent Pest Control. Call 1-800-553-9088.
As cold as it gets in Cleveland, some stories will always warm your heart. It comes but once a year. Great Lakes Theater's magical production of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. Celebrate the season with Northeast Ohio's favorite holiday tradition. A memorable evening of music and merrymaking at Playhouse Square's magnificent Ohio Theater through December 23rd. Experience the joy of a Christmas. Call 216-241-6000 or visit greatlakestheater.org.
Do you know the difference between a bumblebee, honeybee, carpenter bee, wasp, hornet, or yellow jacket? I don't, and I don't want to know. And I don't know about spiders, ants, or any other bugs and creepy crawly things. Ooh! But I know I don't want them in my home. Not around my family or my food. That's why I call the experts at Patent Pest Control. They're licensed and bonded and use only EPA-registered materials. Be wise. Patentize with Patent Pest Control. Call 1-800-553-9088.
Welcome back to Cleats, our place away from home, as Charlie likes to say. I am Ray Malavic, and we're here on Mondays with Malta tonight with Greg Pruitt and Sam Lutigliano, and we have a lot of time left, so come on by. Cleats, voted the #1 sports bar in the area in Lake County, and lots of specials tonight, so stop in and see the coach and Greg Pruitt. Tonight's program is brought to you in part by D&W Goods with Dan Phillips, the owner, Pepco, and of course Jack Borky presents this show tonight, and a great sponsor and backer of Mondays with Malta. We thank Jack for all of his support. Clements Construction, Matrix Tool and Machine, Menor Family Foods, Forenza Stone, that's Mike Fimiani, the owner-operator there, and Kramer Printing, the best in programs from the high school level right on up to the pros. And if you got any questions, you'd like to call in and talk to either Greg or Sam, and maybe you were that cardiac keg era and you remember some things you want to bring up with them, please call. The number to call in would be 440-942-9359. That's 440-942-9359, and we'll be glad to take your call, and I'm sure the gentleman will be glad to answer it.
We've got much more here with the program tonight. Let's start first with Greg. Greg, born and bred where? We know you went on to the University of Oklahoma, so let's talk a little bit about that and what it was like for young listeners at home being a high school recruit. Obviously, you can tell us by many colleges and how tough of a decision it might be.
Not really. I'm from Houston, Texas.
Okay.
And I was a quarterback in high school. I said I had 3 changes in positions, and I didn't like either one of the changes, and it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. My senior year, I was switched from quarterback to a wide receiver because we had a very talented underclassman as a quarterback, and I ended up going to Oklahoma as a receiver. And I worked hard to become a starter at Oklahoma. And then Oklahoma decided to go from Revere to the wishbone, which eliminated one of the receivers. And so I ended up becoming a running back. In fact, I went from starting to a second-team running back. And we played Iowa State. The guy in front of me got hurt, and I got a chance to play, and he never got his job back. So I came here as a running back and kick returner.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And we're drafted in the second round, was it?
Drafted in the second round. I had to overcome what Sam said, you wouldn't believe it now, but when I came in, I was considered too small to play. Actually, when I went from high school to Oklahoma, I weighed 142 pounds. When I was drafted by the Browns, I weighed 175 pounds. And I tried to get to 193 pounds my whole career because it just sounded like that was big enough as a running back. And I tell people now, I'm now trying to get back to 103, but I'm coming from a different direction.
The interesting thing about it was that he was in a wishbone offense. And so in those days, you really kind of worry about it, drafting running backs from the wishbone because you didn't know if they could catch. But fortunately, this guy could have been a receiver, and I made a big mistake by letting him go. But really and truly, he's got a ring on his finger now, so he can't dislike me that much.
Not at all. And Greg, did you ever get to throw the ball for the Browns too? That you were a quarterback in high school? Did they ever use that tool?
Yeah, I think I might have the record for running backs and touchdowns. I think I have 7 touchdowns on the option passes. And they were not all short. I got a couple of long ones there, too.
Yeah, and by the way, he should be in the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, and I hope that's going to happen soon.
That's for sure. 5-time Pro Bowl. Yeah. I agree with that. There's no question about it. All those 1,000-yard years, 3 in a row. In the middle 70s. I agree with that. He should be. And the thing that, they got to really look hard at, such an all-purpose back. I mean, no other, and kick return and punt return.
Right. Well,
the only disappointment that I had in my career, and injury is a part of the game, is that when I came in, I really didn't have a coach that understood all the things that I could do. Nick Scoris didn't think I was big enough to play, and then Forrest came in, and Forrest emphasized running the football, and then Sam's the first coach that understood all of my abilities, and unfortunately I got hurt, and I didn't maintain the consistency as a running back, but I did what I could as a receiver out of the backfield.
Yeah.
And now, Sam, your background, your college, and then a little bit about your history.
Well, I was born in Brooklyn, New York, lived in the same neighborhood as Joe Paterno and Vince Lombardi, and never reached the goals that they did, but I got to know Joe very well. And I went to University of Tennessee, and then I left there and went to the University of Tulsa, graduated, came back, knew right away from the very beginning when I was in college that I wanted to coach, and met my wife, Barbara. And then I coached at Lafayette High School in New York City. I coached in Greenwich, Connecticut. And I coached in Westchester County for 8 years in high school. Then I went to the University of Connecticut. I was on a staff with Lou Holtz. Then I went with Lou Saban, who played for the Browns, as the head coach at the University of Maryland. And then I went with him to the Denver Broncos. And then I went to the New England Patriots. Then I went to the New York Jets. Then I went to the New Orleans Saints. Then I came to the Cleveland Browns.
Well, we're thrilled that finally happened because, it was a sad day to me. You were fired by the Browns, and like Ray Samich says at WLW, we still wish you were coaching.
Well, I had my time here, and it was great. And I got to do a lot of things when I got fired that I could never, with a 24/7 job, get things done. And I'm thankful for that. And more importantly, as I said earlier, I live in Wade Hill. I have 12 acres. It takes me 19 minutes to get downtown. And I lived in Washington. I lived in Boston. Lived in New York. You can't do that there. And as you said, I've been around a lot. I was in 3 Pro Bowls, 2 Senior Bowls, and the fans here are just fantastic. And it's been great for my wife and my family.
Well, we know a little bit about Wade Hill. When my wife and I first got married, we lived at 9191 Metcalf Boulevard, and that is Harry Figge Estate. We lived in the carriage house.
Right, no, that's great.
Yeah, so
right,
and that was 60 acres and 10 fireplaces.
You know who's there now?
Jim is there, good friend.
Right.
What's Jim say? There you go, I'll make him pay. But that's when we first were married, and it was a great place to live, and it's so beautiful.
Yeah, right down the street.
Right. So you'll be here more often now that you know about Cleats.
Oh, yeah,
for sure.
Without question.
Coach, what after the Browns, fill us in there. Did you go to college coaching again at Liberty, was it?
Yeah. After the Browns, I worked in television, and then I wrote a book, and I was speaking to all the televangelists in the country in Washington, D.C., and I met Jerry Falwell. And he invited me up to his room and the hotel, and he asked me if I was interested in coaching at Liberty. I said, no, I didn't think I wanted to go back to coaching. He said, well, you come to Liberty and speak at a chapel. I said, yeah, I'll do that. So I went and spoke at a chapel, and there were 5,000 students then. And he had a vision. And I really felt for the very first time that I would really be doing something other than just being a coach. And I accepted the job. As a matter of fact, I went to Detroit to the airport, and he said, Sam, well, everything's in order right now. Are you gonna come? I said, yep. He said, well, now we have to worry about salary. So I said, okay, here's a napkin, write a number on it. I wrote down $75,000, which I got for 11 seasons and 10 years. Never took a raise. He wrote down $75,000, and he said, praise the Lord. I said, wait a minute, Jerry. When you go to Liberty to take the vow of poverty, you just took the vow, I took the poverty. And now, to end it, remember I told you that he had 5,000 students? Last year, Liberty University had 80,000 online students, and they're doing great.
Fantastic. That is an incredible story. Now, is Liberty in Lynchburg, Virginia?
It's in Lynchburg, Virginia.
Yeah, we've had relatives there, and it's a beautiful, beautiful city.
Yeah. It's right in mountains.
No question about it. That's a great, great story. Go ahead.
But I still kept my house in Cleveland.
In Wade Hill.
Yeah.
Let's go back, of course, Coach, a little bit. And it's hard to put a list of great players, who's this, who's that. Let's talk about opponents, first of all. Your role as the head coach of the Browns during those dynamite years. If you had to name 3 players from the opponents that when you sat down and with your staff and you went, I don't know how we can stop this guy.
Well, it probably
it could be defensive players.
It would be very easy, when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, I could get 6 of them right there.
That's why I held you at 3.
Right. I think Jack Lambert was a great linebacker, and Jack Lambert did what Michael Jordan did. What great players do. They empower people around them to play at a level that they never thought they could play at. And I think, and you would have to say that Terry Bradshaw was his first year there, they were 1-15. And he was there through all the, I think, 6 Super Bowls that they went to and won. And then, as you look at Houston was very good because they them every year, and Cincinnati was a great. I say Anthony Munoz, the tackle at Cincinnati, who's in the Hall of Fame. Then, of course, I would have to say Brian Sipe. In terms of, you look at the history of the Browns and the quarterbacks that they've had and what he did, and you have to remember that they let Paul Warfield go. He was a Hall of Famer. They let him go for a first-round draft choice, and they drafted Mike Phipps. And Mike Phipps, laid a dinosaur egg out there. And Brian Sipe was here then. As I said, he was a 13th-round draft choice. And that Art Modell and the general manager, Peter Hadhazy, told me when I came that Brian Sipe wasn't good enough. I said, well, one of the things I want to do is I talked to you about, I want to make that decision. I want to find out for myself. Because I talked to Len Dawson, I talked to Brian Greasy, and I talked to Fran Tarkenton. And they all said the same thing. The guy, and this is how you judge a quarterback. The intangible, you don't know. But percentage completions, that's the key. And he's an accurate guy. Maybe he couldn't break a pane of glass at 10 yards, but he told me, I called every single player on the phone when I got the job. And I called him, obviously, first. And he said, Coach, my arm is sufficient. Just get 5 condominiums up front, and I want to be around smart players. And we had a signal on the sideline. If there was ever anybody in there that wasn't smart, because Greg was smart, Calvin Hill was smart, Reggie Rucker was smart, Ricky Feature was smart, Ozzie Newsome was smart, Dave Logan was smart, and these guys we ran the option play, which was a play. Greg will tell you. Just tell what you thought of it, Greg.
Well, it was. I guess you would call it an attitude, and I always talk about. I'm trying to say the word chemistry, and I always say that all the time because we had a chemistry, and you would call it an option play, and then when you as a back option, and depending on the formation would determine which side I was on, I would automatically, once I heard option, start to focus in on who I was going against, and sometimes I would break the huddle, look at the guy, look back at Brian, and we'd be already on the same page. And it didn't matter who it was. And sometimes it was so much confidence in the play. Sometimes I would break the huddle and come out and tell the linebacker it was an option. Because it was going to be off of his reaction. If you understand linebackers' mentality, that's an insult to them. So they're going to attack you, which made the play even easy. He showed his hand before I even took 2 steps off the ball after it was snapped. So it was almost a done deal before it even happened. But that chemistry is what, and I mentioned that when I talk about the Browns today, is it came from Brian. It didn't matter who we played. Pittsburgh, it didn't matter how good the team was. We were like in an operating room, and we were getting our assignments. And as long as you did what you done, everybody else was going to do what they done. The play was going to get done. I mean, he was the most patient quarterback. I mean, if you gave him 5 yards, he'd take 5 yards. You gave him 6 yards, he'd give you 6 yards. And he would do it till the defense got tired of the 5 yards, the 7 yards, the 8 yards. And, I mean, he'd be sitting there just waiting for you to get tired. And it's a 35-yard that turns into an 80-yard touchdown.
That chemistry word, Greg, so important. It showed on the field, but I think it had to be a close-knit group off the field. Yeah. And you know what? I don't see that a lot nowadays. I mean, I see bickering today on the sidelines, this, that, the other. And there's reasons for it. Yeah. But am I right in assuming that group of guys, the reason you worked together is because you liked one another?
And everybody had tremendous amount of confidence in the other player.
There you go.
There was no question mark. He called a play, and we knew we'd act like today. On any play, there's a number 1 receiver, number 2 receiver, number 3 receiver, and we knew on certain plays who was 1, who was 2. We didn't care. Maybe he didn't get 1.
That's right, exactly.
But 2 was just as good as 1, 3 was just as good as 2.
Well, like you said, on all those comeback victories, there was very rarely the same guy that was the big play guy from week to week.
That's right. Well,
everybody stepped up.
Yeah. Well, you're perfectly right about what goes on today. I think the biggest thing is park your ego at the door. Harry Truman said in his book, Plainly Speaking, once your hand gets in the way of the target, you don't hit the target. And that was the key. Every week, somebody made a play. And we didn't have any drop passes. We got into the red zone, got down to the goal line. We never self-inflicted, SIWs, self-inflicted wounds. Football, as you know, is a game where it's hard to lose if you don't beat yourself. If you watch, if you look at us this year being 2-7, we could very easily be 4-5. And I'm being lenient with that if we hadn't beat ourselves. That's very important.
You alluded to the fact a little bit Greg, about Brian Sipe. What was it like in the huddle? Tell our fans that, when he called a play or maybe a checkoff or something, you knew it was the right thing.
Well, he kept us comfortable. Sometimes it was comical. I remember in one game we were playing San Diego, and it rained that day. The sun came out. It snowed, and the cycle would start all over again. We would get those puddles of water, and that was during the time when I wore tearaway jerseys. And I ran off tackle, and he tackled me in the water. And we get back in the huddle, and I'm going like that, And so Deacon looks at Brian and say, Brian, and I can see the smirk on their faces, won't you run that play again? And so Brian said, yeah, that sounds like a good play. So I tell Brian, I say, you can call it, but it's going to turn into a quarterback keeper because I won't be nowhere around that ball. And this happens in the huddle.
Oh, that is phenomenal, I'll tell you. What a story. And how about, Sam, touch on the offensive line that, you didn't hear of a calf injury. I mean, those guys always played hurt or a tweak in the hamstring. They're out. They broke a fingernail. Now they're out. It's unbelievable. Those guys never miss games.
No. Well, when I started looking at film, I saw Doug Deacon playing left tackle, and I had coached him in the Senior Bowl. And Robert Jackson was a left guard who was a free agent, and Tom DeLeon, he was on a waiver wire more than Pete Rozelle. He was the center, and I really felt like Rod Humanak, the coach, that was there, the offensive line coach, did a great job, and so I asked him to stay, and he did. And then we got Joe DeLamiere at right guard, and then Cody Risen was a 7th-round draft choice, and just check the history of, pass offense, number one is pass protection, and it has to be foolproof. And those guys really protected him. And the second thing is, as Greg talked about it, chemistry is more important than talent.
No question about it. Ray asked Sam about tough opponents. How about you, Greg? Who's the guy you didn't really want to line up against, or who gave you fits every time you played him?
Well, for me, it was against the run or pass blocking. It was linebackers, and I would say Reggie Williams with the Bengals was one guy. Tom Jackson, in the course of a game, you got to know when to take a playoff win. If it's a quick pitch side and I'm the left halfback, I really don't have a chance to do anything, and the linebacker's not going to get there in time. So it's kind of a play you can go 3/4 speed. You go up to him, he kind of leans against you, the play is over. Well, this guy would come 100 miles an hour in this one particular game here in Cleveland. And so I asked him, I said, why did you ever take the time out? Why you just keep coming hard all the time? And he said, I'm from Cleveland, don't you? I said, no, I didn't know that. He said, yeah, I'm from Cleveland. You know how many tickets I had to buy when I come to Cleveland? He said, I'm not real happy about that.
See, these are the things we don't know about.
That's right.
Well, we're getting close to Thanksgiving, and it was always a tradition for the rookies to go out and get turkeys.
We got to hear about it.
We got to hear about it.
We got a guy, Greg can tell you, his name is Turkey Jones. And the reason his name is Turkey Jones is that, go back now, Thanksgiving's coming. And so the players were really great at it, especially with rookies.
Yeah.
So they sent guys out to places all over Cleveland and outside of Cleveland to go there and say, look, they're going to take good care of you. They're going to give you a turkey. They're going to give you this. They're going to give you that. Yeah, and then it's going to be free. You're going to have a nice Thanksgiving. We're going to practice early so you can have the whole day to yourself. And then, they gave them addresses. They went out there, and they weren't there. And Turkey Jones Did it 2 years in a row. Greg could probably add to it.
Well,
as a rookie, Greg,
there's been some great stories. We had a rookie. They told him they gave him directions where you take 77 north, and you go down and you make all these different turns. And he would get lost. He'd turn around and come back. And he kept saying, he said, man. He said, I just can't find a turn. He said, but every time I come back, they start over. That 77, it just stops. So he would just keep crossing over the freeway, going back, telling me, and he never got it. Finally, I think he ended up at a grocery store, and the guy was, the fans are aware of Turkey Day, so he just gave him a turkey and told him to go home.
Turkey Jones went up to the manager, and he said, I need a shoelace. He said, well, was it a right or a left? He said, well, I'm going to go back and check it.
Greg, did you get burned on Turkey Day, too?
Yeah, I mean, to this day, Northfield and Rockside, as far as I got when I finally gave up. And when I go there, to this day, it reminds me of that day I got lost. Yeah.
I was with 5 teams, and we really look forward to it because we got them all every year.
Did you finally tell them when they came back that there was never such a thing? Or
they
wait until the final year?
They knew. They got it.
All right, talking about some of the some more players that I know our fans are listening at home want to hear about. Let's start with tight end Ozzie Newsome.
Well, Ozzie Newsome is an interesting guy. When I was at New Orleans, I would get to see the University of Alabama every week. And he was in a wishbone offense playing split end, so he caught about 20 passes. But he was a punt returner also. So when I got the job at Cleveland, before I got the job, I told Rich Kotite, who was a tight end, wide receiver coach, and he played tight end for the New York Giants. I said, Rich, I know all I need to know about Ozzie Newsome. I want you to go to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I want you to visit with him. I want you to find out one thing. He said, what's that, Coach? He said, if he got a big butt. Because if he has a big butt, I think we can transition to him being a willing blocker because he was a very good receiver. And so Richie went there, he came back, he said, Coach, he's got a big butt. And then he came to minicamp. And so I said to him, Ozzie, I said, I think you could play in this league as a wide receiver, but I really think you could be a great player as a tight end. He said, Coach, when I left Tuscaloosa, Coach Bear Bryant told me your best position is tight end. I said, well, Ozzie, if Coach Bryant said that, then we're all three on the same page, and the rest is history. He's in the Hall of Fame.
On that, talking about Coach Bryant, you had to have great relationships with some college coaches to get you some of the draft choices that you drafted as Cleveland Browns.
Well, what I like to do is, and it was not always true because you could find guys anywhere, but I like guys that came from winning programs. I really like guys that came from winning programs because they had the kind of attitude that could fit in. And,
when it becomes a habit.
Pardon me?
When it becomes a habit.
Right.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, that's a great way to look at it. Like you said, you can find guys all the time.
You can see it right
winners.
now with Trent Richardson, who playing for Nick Saban at Alabama. He played at Oklahoma for Chuck Fairbanks, and Chuck Fairbanks left Oklahoma when I was at New England.
Wow.
And he wanted to run the wishbone in the NFL. I said, Coach, we can do it. We got 10 running backs.
Not enough quarterbacks.
Yeah, quarterbacks would be dead.
Yeah.
Well, we're at the top of the hour. We're going to have to take a break. We're at Cleats, Mondays with Malta. We've got Coach Sam Martigliano and Greg Pruitt. Come on down. We'd love to have you. And look who's in the house. In the second hour, we're going to see and get a chance to talk to Mitch Trubisky and the Mentor Cardinals. Again, we'll be right back after this short break.
In the winter of 1777, George Washington and his army were instructed to stop in the open fields on their way to Valley Forge. The weather was bitter and cold, but they stopped to give thanks. They paused to pray and celebrated their own Thanksgiving. Years later, on October 3, 1789, Washington issued his first presidential proclamation, recommending to the people of the United States a day of public thanksgiving and prayer, to be observed by acknowledging with grateful hearts the many favors of Almighty God. This is Ron Trzynski. It wasn't until the presidency of Abraham Lincoln that Thanksgiving Day was established. It was done in the same basic spirit, to thank God, to promote national unity, and to pause for just a day to be grateful. Although many people are struggling today with all sorts of problems, all of us have things for which we should be thankful. So this Thanksgiving, enjoy your time with those near and dear to you, and remember the words of our founding father, and take a moment to give thanks.
Don't you just love fall in Northeast Ohio? Sunshine skies, gorgeous leaves, cool nights, and then, bam! Winter snowstorms. Be smart. You don't need to clear snow anymore, and don't risk being stuck in your house or inaccessible to visitors or safety vehicles. Call George Ward about their affordable snowplow packages. George and his crew are reliable and honest. With Ward's, you stop working and stop worrying. Visit WELW.com or call 440-942-1912. No work, no worries. Ward's.
Problem? You're pretty handy and not afraid of hard work. And there's a big job to get done. But who has equipment you need, fast and cheap? CCM Rental Menor, the super alternative, has lifts, excavators, loaders, dozers, everything, and experienced experts to advise you on how and how not to. They can deliver or save even more and do it yourself. Around the house, in the yard, or on the job. It just makes sense and saves dollars. Call CCM Rental Menor first before you buy. Visit ccmrental.com.
Join Marshall Ford Lincoln Superstores Thursday, November 15th from 5 to 9 p.m. for the nationwide Go Further with Ford night. Test your American Idol judging skills for a chance to win a VIP trip to the show or a 2013 Fusion unveiled during event. And help make a difference for MS as Ford will donate $10 to this local charity for the first 50 who register. Join WELW. Enjoy great food, drinks, and prizes at the Go Further with Ford night, November 15th. Marshall Superstores at the big corner of I-271 and Mayfield Road.
Hi, I'm Carol Ganser, the host of What Women Want. With my past experiences as a police officer and a coordinator at a psychiatric clinic, and now working with people for their insurance needs and retirement planning, every week we discuss topics that women need to know and want to know. So join me for What Women Want every Tuesday at 4 p.m. on the Talk of the Town, WELW, and live or archived at WELW.com.
To quench your thirst, there's nothing like pure, cooling spring water. Sunrise Springs Water Company derives their water in the heart of Geauga County. But they're more than just water. From the same company you know for great water, they also provide water softener, salt, filters, and all water treatment services, including delivery, installation, and maintenance. Visit Sunrise Springs Water Company at sunrisespringswater.com or call 440-564-9743. Find them on Facebook and Twitter. Sunrise Springs Water Company. More than just water.
Now available on your cell phone at tunein.com. WELW Willoughby Slate Cleveland.
Welcome back to Mondays with Malta, Ray Malavik 2. We're live at Cleats with Coach Sam Artigliano, Greg Pruitt. We'd like to thank Jack Borky for putting it together. And the Cardinals are in the house, so we'll be with them in about 20 minutes or so. So come on down, stop, and meet Coach Sam and Greg before we get to the unbelievable Menor Cardinals, 63-56. Wow, we're excited to talk to them. Touching on a couple more players, Coach. Clay Matthews. Let's talk about Clay.
Well, Clay Matthews, we were getting ready in 1978, and we wanted to draft a cornerback from Notre Dame. And right before that, Detroit picked that cornerback. And then we went right to what the draft said. The best athlete on the board now, regardless of position, was Clay Matthews. And for him to play as a three-down linebacker, people don't realize that, today in a 3-4, the two inside linebackers, 60 to 70% of the time in the NFL, teams are in spread formation. So those linebackers are coming out of the game. But he was a three-down linebacker for 19 years. That means short yardage. That means goal line. That means 2nd and 10 or 3rd and 10. And he's another guy that belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And
the great thing about having a teammate like Clay and being able to play three down, because most teams did it. He was one of the linebackers that actually could stay in and defend backs. And I'm sure we helped him by practicing against us. He helped us by us going. I mean, actually, the linebackers, we never met a linebacker that was as quick or as fast as Clay. So if you could beat Clay in practice,
whoever you were going
in the
against,
game,
you knew you had the confidence.
And I'll tell you, when the kid, the son, was getting drafted, he went to SC as a walk-on at 164 pounds. And then let's go back now to we made the deal for Sanchez on the 5th round, and we got some extra players, but we were picking 17th. I talked to Clay Sr. that day, and we had a chance to pick him that day. I really liked Mac, but I really think that guy, especially now, I think one of the things that I think the Browns have to do, I like Miava, I like Gogong, I like Fugitive, but they don't have, in a 4-3 or a 3-4, you got to have outside linebackers that can play in space. Chip Banks and Clay Matthews can play in space. They not only could cover a tight end, they could cover a slot receiver. And right now, as I said before, in the NFL, you got to have that because 60 to 70% of the time, they're either in five wides or empty, and they're throwing a football.
You know, we've had Deacon on the show before with Robert Jackson, and I brought that point up to them, saying that you live in a conference with Baltimore and Pittsburgh, who live and die with their defense. And you know, my choice would have been Clay Matthews Jr. And I build a defense that leads to offense. I mean, unless there's a guy like Craig Pruitt on, you know, you're gonna be able to draft him. I'd build that defense, and I think by just seeing what Pittsburgh's done with their defense and Baltimore with their defense, and have won championships with it, you know, you go out and you pick this wide receiver or this guy on offense. I mean, build the defense, be the strongest defense. Look at Chicago Bears this year. There's a perfect example.
Well, I think you have to have that, but the Browns right now, you know, don't have. I think this kid, J. Michael Johnson, is what you want. And you're going to have to get more guys like that because, you know, if you run a 3-4, as we did, and we ran a 3-4 because the colleges were all in 3-4s, so there were more linebackers coming out, inside and outside, than there were D linemen. So when you play the 3-4, if you have a guy like Chip Banks, a guy like Clay Matthews, and then you got two shutdown corners like Minifield and Hanford Dixon, I mean, that's where it starts with that perimeter. You can fill all the other stuff in there, but it has to be there at that perimeter. And we're not there right now. I think Joe Hayden and Sheldon Brown, and I think they got some young kids now that are going to be good for the future.
Coach, we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up, you started the inner circle, which led to probably saving a lot of players' lives, and it was just remarkable what you did with the inner circle, and I want to congratulate you on that, and thank you for the accomplishments that became of it.
Well, we had about 9 or 11 guys that had a problem, and I talked to the team about it. And I talked to the 9/11 guys and said that I will never tell anybody. So the way it started was this guy comes into my office, player, and he says, "Coach, can I talk to you?" I said, "Yeah, of course." He said, "Can I close the door?" And then when he said, "Close the door," you know, it's serious. And he told me that he attempted suicide in a Berea apartment that he lived in on the 6th floor. So at that time, the NFL wanted every team to have a doctor that could work with alcoholism or drug addiction. And we had Dr. Greg Collins in the Cleveland Clinic, who was still there. And so my job was to find out. And so he was the first one that went away. And then he said to me, "Coach, I know you told me that you didn't want me to tell anybody, but I got to tell you about Charlie White. Because if you don't get Charlie White in here, he's got a lot of problems. He's going to die." So I flew him in, and of course, the first thing he did was deny everything, and they're pathological liars. So I said, "Look, Charlie, it's 5 after 8. If you're not at the clinic at 8:30, you're gone. And I'm going to yell and I'm going to tell." And so he went. And so that's how it started. And then we talked about it on the road in preseason games to other players. We invited other players to have meetings with us, which we had every week. And it ended up that we had about 9 or 11 guys whose names I can't mention, and I'll go to my grave doing that, but although a lot of people say they know who they are. But you would be absolutely amazed what a great job that Dr. Collins did and what those guys are doing now. I had one of them this past year who was working in Florida, and he wanted me. I was speaking to a union in Kalahari down in Sandusky, and he introduced me. And it was really, he said, "Coach, I just want you to know what you did and what Art Modell did for me is you saved my life." You know, when a player says something like that to you, you trade that for the Super Bowl ring.
No question about it. Greg, we talked a little bit about in the beginning of the show, maybe a story that listeners would like to hear. Maybe Sam wouldn't like you to tell, but how about you got one for us?
Oh, well, we talked about it the other day. I'm still trying to get Sam to pay my fine. But the cardiac kid year was a magical year. And I said, during the beginning of a season, the coach has to be lucky in that the ball turns your way a couple times and that your key guys stay healthy. Right. And also you just got to get lucky sometimes. And we played Kansas City, and it was late in the game. And I ran a 70 dig, which is a flag pattern with the back on the cornerback, and he broke the play up, and we kind of rolled and got up off the ground, and he got jumped up, and he put his finger in my face, and he said, "There ain't going to be none of that cardiac kid blink today." I said, "Well, you got to put your hand in my face to tell me all of that?" So he puts his hand up, and I hit his hand, and he put his hand back up. We go to fight. So we both get thrown out of the game. Turns out that was their best cornerback. And the guy replacing him was a rookie. Reggie beats him, and we win the game. So I get fined now for getting thrown out of the game. So I go over to Sam and say, "Sam, I'd really like for the team to take care of that fine." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, hey, scout reports say they didn't have much of a backup. Only way that was going to work, I had to get this guy out of the game. I sacrificed myself so we can win." And it worked, Coach. All I need is for you to take care of this fine. He paused for a minute. He said, "That's a good story, but you got to pay your own fine."
It was a great story.
It was a great story. But we were up 21, I think 20 or 21-0 at the half, and they came back, and Reggie made a great play, and that corner was out of the game. There was a rookie over there. That was great.
Coach and Greg, the change in football, obviously, from when you coached and you played to it is now.
Right.
There's drastic changes in any sport. The thing that sticks out in my mind is what happened, or why did the two running backs just disappear? I mean, you had the Jim Brown, the Ernie Green. You had the Franco Harris, the Rocky Blyer. Gale Sayers.
Calvin Hill.
And I'll go on and on and on. All of a sudden now, it's one back, almost exclusively, and with this different kind of offense at times, there's no backs.
Well, I'll tell you this, though, that the teams that are running the ball effectively, because when you run the ball effectively, you create second and short, and second and medium, third and short, third and medium. But I'll tell you the drastic change of all. When Butch Davis was here as a coach, he asked me if I would speak to the team that played Detroit in their first game. I said, yeah, I was sure. So I'm at the hotel, and we're trying to pass time. He says to me, "Coach, what was the biggest change? What's the biggest difference between the time you coached and now?" I said, "Well, I didn't coach 100 years ago, but I'll tell you what the biggest change is. You'll make $2,925,000 more than I did as the head coach of the Cleveland Browns."
Well, that's a big change. That's a big change.
I would say so.
But
no question about it.
I'm coming from with that, though. I mean, we had two running backs over 1,000 yards, if I'm not mistaken, in one season.
Right.
Mack and Biner. Yeah. And that's unheard of today. I mean... It's just how it went so much different.
Yeah, as you know, being a coach, regardless of what level it is, everybody's a copycat.
Sure.
Because now the spread formation in high school, has moved on to college.
These young men right here, men are wide
open. And then
from
college, it's moved into the pros. And so, like a kid like Brandon Whedon right now, people are. I think he's a player. He had a guy named Justin Blackman who played with him at Oklahoma State. He had 48 touchdowns in 2 years. He had 1,300 yards each one of those 2 years. We're leading the league again in drops. We're leading the league in plus 20 plays, which we're ranked 32nd, 29th. And so this kid now doesn't have there's about 7 quarterbacks in the NFL, the Mannings and Tom Brady and Rodgers and so forth, that are elite quarterbacks. But if you check on all those elite quarterbacks and see what they're doing with the supporting cast. They got tight ends, they got wide receivers, they got backs coming out of the backfield. See, that's what's so great about Trent Richardson. I think he's got 31 receptions.
Catch the ball, yeah.
Give him the ball more.
We see the spread, but the one thing we don't see, and I'm surprised more of, is the no huddle and taking their packages out, their defensive packages out of the game by a no huddle not being able to get them in. Why don't we see more no huddle offenses like in the NFL, like a Menor offense?
Well, I think that there's a lot of teams in the NFL that do that, but you have to understand that the biggest difference is quarterbacks in the NFL got their hands under the center. And the thing that Brandon Whedon has to do, and Brian Sipe did it, and a lot of guys that I coached in the different games, is you got to see the defense in slow motion. The center, it's a total different game. Because if you remember what Whedon was talking about with kid Ed Reed, the free safety, I mean, he was playing games with Whedon, and what the quarterback does now, he plays games with the free safety. Going back to Ozzie Newsome at that time, everybody was running the Dungy 2 with 5 underneath and 2 deep. And we started with a tight end attack in the middle, and Brian Sipe could look off the free safety because a lot of young quarterbacks are staring at receivers. Can't do that in the NFL. You got a couple of corners over there that might be playing for 10 years. You might have a guy like Ed Reed playing about 13 or 15 years. He knows everything that's going on. So when you go up to the line of scrimmage under the center, not in the spread, you're looking at that guy, and you got to play games with him so that you get little cracks as guys are running routes to try to beat that defense.
All right, guys, we got about 10 more minutes. How are we going to fix the current Browns? Go ahead, Greg, you first.
Well, I think when I look at the Browns, I try to see the positive. And like we alluded to earlier, the Browns have been in every game that they've played. They've just found a way to lose. They got to find a way to win. And I think that as they play more games together, they will develop that chemistry. And now the leadership, the power that we have is going to have to keep bringing in other players that can make that transition continue to go in a positive direction. I think until we get all the pieces of the puzzle, we shouldn't grade Whedon, get some receivers that hold on to the football, and you just have to have a higher bar. Your expectation of your players have to be higher. You can't accept guys dropping the pass because that's up to them. You pay them, they're professionals. If you're having a problem, then you need to stay after practice and resolve that problem. If it takes being on your off day, you got to stay on your off day and become a better player. And that's what you have to demand. And until we do that, we're not going to get any better. But there's some potential there. I think we're better on defense right now than we are on offense. In the last game, except for the first 2 drives, that's something the defense, the young guys got to learn. You got to start the game strong. You can't settle and give up 14 points and then try to overcome that. But you take the 14 points away in the last game, they play a heck of a defensive game.
Sure did.
Sam, how do we fix the current Browns?
Well, I think, it starts at the top, as I said earlier. I think that you have to have the ownership. A lot of people don't realize that. As you use Pittsburgh and you look at the Rooneys, they've all been there all this time. Listen, we came back 14 years ago. This is our 17th quarterback. In that time, they hired presidents, general managers, and head coaches. That's a triangle. And that triangle, you accumulate talent, you assess that talent, then you perform an autopsy on them to make sure they play their A game every week. Well, during the course of those 14 years, none of those three positions, president, general manager, or head coach, was here more than 3 years. And as I told you, Pittsburgh, I signed Bill Cowher as a free agent. He and Chuck Noll were the 39 years, the only two coaches. They won 470 games, and they won 6 Super Bowls. So right now, you've got to have that, and I think the ownership gives you that. We haven't had that since the very beginning. I mean, just take a look at Mike Holmgren came here, and you want to be president? You want to be the general manager? You want to be the head coach? You got to be kidding. I mean, you got to hire the right people, and that's how you win. And I think finally now we have that. And if you look at all the models, that's what's happening. Look at Belichick. Look at Green Bay. And then the other thing you have to have is it's a quarterback-driven league. You got to have that quarterback. And if you look consistently each year at the teams we talk about that have elite quarterbacks, they're in it every year.
Well, no question about it. And just give our fans at home, Greg, you can start first. If we do win, what it would be like?
I don't know what it would be like, but I know I'd like to be here to witness it.
Sam?
Well, it'll be great.
He's got a better chance of being here than I do. But I think it would be great. And as I said, having lived here now over 35 years, having had the honor of being a head coach of one of the great franchise in the history of the NFL, I would love to be here and get this thing done. And I really think the Haslams are going to get it done.
Coach, you've written a book called Pressure. Did you write it with your brother, am I told, or not? And can you still, your book, can you still buy your book?
Well, it's kind of it's out now, but if anybody wants to buy a book, you can give them my phone number and give me a call.
Okay. And Ozzie said that you said this, which you can talk a little bit about luck. Sam once said luck is the result of preparation meeting opportunity. I use that word a lot when I talk to kids, opportunity. So let's talk a little bit.
I got that from a guy that just passed away, Darryl Royal, who was 88 years old, and he was a great player at Oklahoma, and he was a great coach at University of Texas. Luck is where preparation meets opportunity.
No question about it. And Greg, I wanted to touch on this. You'll be an answer to a trivia question someday, because what Cleveland Brown won a Super Bowl and a USFL Super Bowl too, a championship, and that would be you.
No.
It's no. You didn't win one for Michigan.
I didn't go to the USFL.
Oh, okay.
No.
Oh, all right.
It might be Calvin Hill.
Someone once told me that was true. Yeah. But tell our listeners at home, what was it like winning the Super Bowl?
It was like a dream come true. I mean, it was. I really didn't believe it till I read it in the paper the next day. It was great. I was nervous. What you have to understand is that when you go through a season and you get to that Super Bowl, no matter how well you played that season, it's all for naught if you don't win.
That's right.
And that in itself creates a lot of pressure. And for the young kids around here, and we've all played sports, it's called butterfly. And when you play the game, somewhere butterflies disappear and you get caught up in the game, except for the Super Bowl. The butterflies stayed there the whole game. In fact, true. I mean, I run up and down the sideline and I'm telling guys, all right, it ain't over. Let's go. And I think it was Matt Miller that grabbed me and turned me to the clock. He said, Greg, I want you to say out loud, what is the score? I say 39-7. He said, "Me, it's over."
Sam,
and I went to high school with Al Davis.
Did you really?
Right. Yep.
Did he tell you that someday he wanted to own an NFL team?
Oh, no, he didn't tell me that, but I wasn't surprised.
Is that right?
Yeah.
How about what was it like coaching in Europe?
Europe was fun. NFL Europe was like a AAA baseball league. A lot of guys in the NFL who got a cup of coffee and went to the NFL. Had a chance to. We trained in Tampa for 6 teams for about a month. Then we went to Europe, played in 11 games, and if you were the best team, 2 best teams played in the World Bowl, which we had a team that played in the World Bowl. And I think it was a great thing. We weren't going to replace soccer in Europe, but there's about 172,000 college football players. So do the math. We got 32 teams with 53-man rosters. That's about less than 2,000. Where did all those other kids go? So when you have a league like that, we had hundreds of kids that maybe weren't Kurt Warner, who was at Amsterdam, but kids who were good special teams players, kids with great backups, and I think the NFL lost a lot by giving that up, because that we had a lot of extra players that had a chance to play.
How about one of your ex-Cleveland Browns that maybe someone never thought he was going to end up as much of a player, but you gave him a chance and he became a viable Cleveland Brown for you?
Well, Dino Hall came from a Division III school in New Jersey. There was a guy that was the assistant general manager, Denny Lynch, who knew him and went to that same school. And so we brought him in, and then I cut him. And in my office he said, "Coach, you're making a big mistake." And he proved to be right. He came back and played about 7 or 10 years.
Ray?
This has been great. What can I say? The knowledge, the insight. I don't know. Give me the older guys. I'm sorry.
My last question to you both is,
because I'm older too. But
right. I'll start with Greg. Greg, what are you doing now?
I have a construction business. I correct code violations. So, these cities have the building department come out and give you these lists of violations. Well, then I'll come out and correct them for you.
Okay.
I know where you're going to, because I'm a councilman, so I count on the building department a lot.
Okay.
They're my friend. If you're not friends with the building and service department as a councilman,
right.
You're getting nothing done.
Right.
But in the city of Willock, we got some good ones, and I'm very lucky. And Sam, how do you like being an analyst? I love watching it on TV.
Oh yeah, well, I said before, television's great. You get paid and you don't have to win. But just remember one thing: a new broom sweeps clean, but it takes an old one to get in the corners.
Sam Ratigliano, Greg Pruitt, let's hear it. Thanks for coming.
Great job.
Great job. We're thrilled that we came out and been part of our show here tonight. Beautiful Super Bowl ring. The Cardinals, take a good look at that Super Bowl ring he's got on his finger, because you're going to win one in 3 weeks. Next up, Mitch Trubisky, and it's the Cardinals that are, I think Reese is here and a couple other ones. Come on down. This is Mondays with Malta, Ray Malavic too. Tonight's program is brought to D&W Goods, Dan Phillips, owner-operator, Pepco, Jack Forkey, right there, Mitch. Clements Construction, Mike Clements, owner-operator, Matrix Tool and Machine. Menor Family Foods, owner-operator P.J. Conway. Forenza Stone, owner-operator Mike Fimiani. Judy Moran, who made it. Congratulations to her as commissioner. And Kramer Printing. Printing faster than the speed of life. After our short break, we're going to hear from the none other Menor Cardinals in the greatest football game maybe ever played in Ohio high school history. There's a big smile on Mitch's face and Reese's, and you're going to hear from the guys that are here tonight. We're really excited that they're here, and we'll be right back. You're listening to Mondays with Malta, Ray Malavic too. Locally, we're on www.wlw.com and 1330 AM. We'll be right back.
Did you ever put in a new faucet and flood the kitchen? Or reverse the connections in your shower and hot was cold and cold was hot? Everyone has their own plumbing horror story. But no matter what plumbing story you have, Tom Schaefer Plumbing can fix your drip or disaster. For over 80 years, Tom Schaefer Plumbing has been your trusted plumber with reliable service. Because accidents happen. Call Tom Schaefer Plumbing, 440-602-7300. 602-7300.
Do you know how to use the amazing LinkedIn social networking site? LinkedIn is the world's largest business site, and a new member joins every second. LinkedIn can help make 2013 your best year ever. Attend our all-content, no-fluff Power of LinkedIn seminar Friday, November 16th, 8 to 11 a.m. at Lakeland's new Holden Center. It's only $29 with a 100% money-back guarantee. Call 440-974-8500, 440-974-8500 to pre-register. If you have only one employee or 100, LinkedIn will bring you new customers, boost revenues, build closer business relationships, increase productivity, identify who you need to network with, connect with Twitter, and so much more. No prior knowledge of LinkedIn or social networking required, but you will leave knowing how to immediately use this ultra-powerful business tool. Seating is limited for this dynamic seminar Friday, November 16th, 8 to 11 a.m. at Lakeland's Holden University Center. Register today at 440-974-8500, 440-974-8500. You need the power of LinkedIn.
Pat O'Brien Chevrolet has over 2,000 vehicles, and every one is GM preferred price, plus you keep the rebates up to $8,000 per million. A short drive will save you time and money. Get upfront pricing only at Pat O'Brien Chevrolet. Pat O'Brien Chevrolet believes you do good by doing good. That's why on the first Saturday of each month, a pet adopt-a-thon will be held where the public can see dogs and cats available for adoption at each of Pat O'Brien Chevrolet's 4 convenient locations.
Why go to the Y? You can challenge yourself, indulge yourself, or have wonderful family fun. YMCA's pool offers Aqua Cardio Challenge, deep water jogging, gym and swim, or Silver Splash for silver sneakers. Let your creativity flow with ballet for adults, creative story time for kids, or cooking magic classes. Get in physical and mental shape with Absolutions, a core workout for abdominals and lower back, yoga, meditation, Pilates, thighs, butts, and guts workout, or boot camps for sports and strength conditioning. Programs that build healthy spirit, mind, and body for everyone. Visit LakeCountyYMCA.org.
To celebrate Mike Simon turning 60 years old and celebrating the Carpet Guys over 30 years in business, Mike's offering a great deal. Get 30% off all in-stock remnants until Thanksgiving, in time for the holidays. He wants to say thanks to his customers at this time of year. The Carpet Guy across from the News Herald in Willoughby. Call Mike and wish him a happy 60th and receive your 30% off all in-stock carpet remnants. Installation available. 440-796-9036.
I remember the moment. Never forget that moment.
As long as I live.
As long as I live.
Several of us were working to rescue a family.
The house collapsed on top of the cellar door and trapped them.
We had to use Humvees and heavy machinery to move massive trees and debris.
We got them out.
We helped a lot of people out.
It felt good to know I could really make a difference.
Because I'm a citizen soldier in the National Guard.
Be there the moment your community needs you. Learn more at NationalGuard.com.
Sponsored by the Ohio National Guard. Aired by the Ohio Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Welcome back to Mondays with Malta and Ray Malavik too. We'd like to thank Greg Pruitt and Coach Sam Martigliano for co-hosting our show tonight on the Browns Show. Were fantastic, and a lot we learned, and some of the stories we never heard before were fantastic. Well, a lot of you know, my listeners at home, I was in Columbus over the weekend, and I had to pass on doing the St. Ed's Menor game, but I got 1,000 texts. I knew exactly what was happening. But the one that maybe that next morning was from my co-host, Ray Malavik, who said, Charlie, I know Sam's going to be on and Greg's going to be on. You got to get the Cardinals there. Then the next text was to Jeff Casella. I said, I know Coach Triv will be game planning, but I said, reach out to Mitch. He's become a good friend of the show. Reese has been on it since he's been in about 5th grade, I think. And it's Kent that's here, right? Brandon and they're here tonight. Ray, great call on your part, but unbelievable. Let's hear it for the Menor Cardinals and all our listeners at home. What a fantastic game. They're saying the greatest game in Ohio high school history, 63-56. First, Mitch, I know you realize that you've won, but I mean, it's just what an incredible feel. I mean, I'm shivering talking to you about it. Tell us what's on your mind and what it was like.
It was awesome. It was a great atmosphere. We were down 21 at one point, and we just kept on battling, and we scored 28 unanswered points. Defense came up big in the fourth quarter, and we just went on to win a huge game, and it was very memorable, and carry that on forever. It was an awesome game.
Mitch, going in, I mean, your confidence level, you knew, I mean, you've seen the press clippings. Number one team in the nation, undefeated, but you had a confidence level that you could beat them, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. In order to win a game, you have to believe in yourself and your teammates. And we just went out knowing that we could win, and we never gave up one time, and we came out successful on top, and that's what we had to do.
Mitch, you set records that have been records for 80 years, and I know to you it's the W that means more than anything. But looking at them, it's got to amaze you. I mean, all the touchdowns, all the yardage, it's simply amazing against probably, I'm good friends, as well as friends with Coach Triv. I'm with Rick Fanati because we grew up coaching Little League Baseball together, our kids. He's a defensive guru. I mean, their defense at Mayfield, 7 shutouts in a row, and he brought that to St. Ed's. I mean, you put them stats up against a defense that was incredible, like they were sliced cheese. I mean, it has to be pretty phenomenal once you read them that, wow, we really did this.
Yeah, it feels pretty good. That's what I heard. They were a great defense, but I had a lot of help on my side. I had a lot of time up front with my own linemen, throwing to Brandon Fritz and the rest of the receivers. It was a lot of fun. Just we had a great game plan going in, and we had a lot of great calls all night, and it seemed like everything was working, and we just came out, execute, and it was just a lot of fun to go out there and play on Saturday.
Before I let Ray at you guys, let's talk to Reese and Brandon. And first, Reese, your thoughts. I mean, simply incredible. You guys finally, your catalyst on defense. And the first half, they were scoring touchdowns. They were matching you. What was said in the huddle to get, 4 stops in a row? I mean, you guys you seniors had to come up big at that point.
Yeah, well, letting up 56 points isn't exactly what we wanted to do. But in the huddle, on the sidelines, we just had the defense gather around and we said, listen, our offense has our backs. Now it's our time to have their backs. We knew once we could get a stop, the momentum would build from there, and we believed in our offense to score as they did.
Wow, and you're going up against sprinters that won the 220 in Ohio High School state track meet last year, and you knew those guys were fast, but you guys did make the stops. And I kept saying, because I got to see the first half on TV, and I kept saying you guys kept pooch kicking it, and you're giving them unbelievable field position too. I mean, your defense was giving them the ball on the 50 and on your own 45, but you know what? And it finally clicked, and you made the stops. I mean, it has to be an unbelievable feeling.
Yeah, it is. It was definitely a rewarding feeling at the end. Probably one of the better games I've ever been a part of.
All right, you want to hand it over to that guy that 14 catches. I might be wrong on the yards, 250 yards or something like that, and just incredible, Brandon. What a great performance by yourself.
We just really came together as a unit there at the end. We obviously couldn't have done it without the big guys up front right here, Short and the offensive line. And obviously Mitch had one of his best games probably ever in his life. And our defense got those key stops we were looking for, and it was just a great team effort there at the end.
And Brandon, on your offense, and it doesn't matter who gets the ball, but I mean, I'm looking at, they're a great defense, but they've got 5'8" corners and 5'9" corners. You're 6'4". You exploited that.
Yeah, I just kept telling our coaches. I mean, I got a mismatch. I mean, he barely came up to my chest, so I just kept telling coaches, give me the ball. I could take this kid all day, and Mitch did a great job of getting the ball there, and I just did what I could.
No question about it. Well, it was a phenomenal performance, and to be a part of the greatest game in the history of Ohio High School, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Especially when you come out on top.
Absolutely.
All right, big boy. Now you're the offensive line, and they're fast. They're awfully fast. They're awfully big. But you guys, you did very well keeping that guy off his butt.
Yeah, definitely. We knew that if we won the battle up front, we were going to win the game. That's all it came down to. You know, you give that guy time, he can do a lot of different stuff, and that's what defenses don't want. So that's basically what it came down to, was winning it up front, so give him time to do his thing.
Well, you know, Brandon, and this we're talking to Brandon Short, and he's the leader of that offensive, and being the leader, give us a little, what was it like in the huddle, knowing that you had to go against a defensive line that maybe averaged 280, 290?
Yeah, we just kept telling ourselves that you got to believe, and we called it, we referred it back to Rocky 3. It's going to be a 12-round fight, and we just got to keep battling. They're going to get us sometimes, but it's how you respond, and that's what we did. We responded well.
You certainly did, and it's got to be pretty cool being part of an offense that just every time you've got the ball, you may score 19 out of 20 times.
Yeah, exactly. That's our goal. Every time we have the ball, we want to score. Either it's a touchdown or a field goal, but we want to put points up on the board.
No question about it, and you certainly did, and you just got to be so excited.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Ray?
Well, let's start back over here. I guess my main question, and probably a lot of questions in people's minds, fans of yours, are simply, all right, a great game. It's over with. They're done. You're advancing. Now another big game. St. Ignatius, a team who, as great as St. Ed's been the last couple of years, when you look at the record books, St. Ignatius way ahead of them. Number of state titles, close calls, what have you. How do you put last week way behind you and gear on the Wildcats?
That's the thing. People are calling it the best high school game of all time last Saturday, but the best has yet to come, and that's what it has to be for us in order to win these next 3 games. We're going to take it 1 week at a time, and we're going up against one of our big rivals, St. Ignatius, and we know how good they are. They know about us, and it's going to come down to who wants it more in execution. We're really excited. We've been studying a lot of film. I think we got a lot different team than we did week 3 when they beat us, and we knew going into this game that if we won, we'd play Ignatius, and we're just geared up, getting ready, and everyone's excited for this one. And you just got to put the other one behind you, and we'll remember every memory we made that night. But the best has yet to come. And in order to get to our ultimate goal of a state championship, we got to go through Ignatius and bring home a Region 1 championship this week. So we're preparing as hard as we can and studying a lot of film and hitting the field hard.
And, you hit it on the head, and Coach Tribb, of course, said it in the papers today or yesterday that you know each other well. I mean, they know you, you know them. You know their tendencies, they know yours. They know you're going to do this in certain situations, and you know that too from a defensive standpoint. It's execution. Probably, as always, turnovers is going to be a big factor. You're at a familiar setting. I mean, you've played over there several times. They play there probably more than you do.
It's a home field.
Yeah, so it's got everything going for it, and yet two more after that. I mean, when you play St. Ed's and you play Ignatius back-to-back, those to me are title games. Those are state title games, but they aren't because there's still 2 more after.
There's more to come, right?
But I guess it's take it one play, one game at a time, huh, Reese?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you compare the 2 teams? You played them both now?
Both teams definitely have the athleticism and the speed to be a successful team, and in order to beat teams like that, you just have to be prepared as possible.
Do you agree with me that turnovers? I mean, you're an interception type guy. I mean, you could turn this thing around with a pick yourself. They could too. I mean, you got a guy here that doesn't screw up much. There aren't many INTs. It's got to be to your advantage. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm just a fan, just totally a fan, But you guys have got to be to play Eds and beat them. Now to have a chance to play Ignatius and beat them and go on and on. It's a dream. It's a dream come true. I mean, how can you top that? I guess that's what I'm saying. Can you top it? I guess win next week, huh?
Yeah.
I think they, it's hard to think that you got to put a game like that on the back burner, but you got to. You said you've already been studying film, right?
Yeah.
And Tim McVay's a monster.
Yeah.
And you got to kill that monster, and I think that's the mentality, right?
Yeah, definitely. We know defensively we have to be as aggressive and physical as possible because that offense, last time we played them, put up 48 points on us, which to me I think is just unacceptable. We got to help out our offense just like they help out us.
I've been saying all year long, I'm saying they beat them in week 4 when that defense was very young. You're starting a lot of juniors on that defense. I think it goes 4, 5, and 2, 4 seniors, 5 juniors, and 2 sophomores. Well, in that respect, you've had 6, 7, 8 games for that defense to, melt together to get experience. And you know what? And you knew St. Ed's was going to be tough. You know St. Ignatius is going to be tough. But you're much more experienced. And I see what happened last year where you beat them in week 3 or 4, and they beat you to go on and win a state title. And there we got the same scenario where they beat you, and now you're going to beat them. And I know that's the confidence level you got to have.
Brandon, you talked about mismatch last week, and, it proved to be in your favor. How about this week? Now, you've played against these defensive backs. Your height is a big advantage, no question. Do they match up a little bit better? Are they a little bit bigger in the backfield?
They're bigger. They're a lot bigger than their corners. They're good. They're obviously good. They got 2 good corners, some good safeties. One of probably the best defense we've seen all year. So, we just got to go out and do our thing, go do what we've been coached to do, and I think we can win this game.
I like the confidence. You got to be that way. Of course, they're saying it the same thing on their side of things. How tough is it to beat a good team twice in one season? Is it as tough as people say it might be?
Yeah, I think it's tough, but you know what? We obviously didn't come to play last time we played them, and I think we're a whole different team this time around. So I think we'll be ready for them this time, that's for sure. Great. And the lineman, let's hear from him, the guy who doesn't get most of the headlines, but like I say, nothing happens without these guys. You didn't have the game as a unit that you probably wished you had the first time.
Yeah, definitely. We got exposed that game, and we're really looking to come back. Show how we've improved. We have a chain, and that's our motto. If there's a chink in the chain, it doesn't work. So we all need to be like a chain and one good machine.
Great. And, it's kind of neat, too, that you have this opportunity. I mean, that you're playing them again, a team that you only lost. I mean, sometimes that doesn't happen, And let's say you would have lost Saturday. Well, now you got 2 things to think about. Boy, we should have beat Ignatius. We didn't play well. Look at this crazy game. We didn't win. But you won the crazy game, and now you have a chance to come back.
Yeah, definitely. We just got to come ready and focus. Last time I think we came out flat, a little bit nervous. Some of the young guys, it's week 3, first big game of the year. I think last game really set us apart, fourth quarter, how we came back and finished. And I think that's going to be the difference this week.
And you always want to play at home. You did able to do that because of your ranking in the first week of the playoffs. Now, of course, on the road till the end. But yet you've been over there a couple of years now for a couple of games. Got to be at least a little better for you comfort-wise than if you were going to some place you'd never seen before.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is our, 4th time playing there this year. Trev calls it our home away from home.
There you go.
I definitely feel comfortable playing there. Big atmosphere. That's what you want for a high school football game. Couldn't ask for anything better.
Well, it's got everything you need to be a great game, and it will be. There's just no doubt.
Mitch, and you can hand that over to Reese after. I got a question for Reese after this. Mitch, your defense plays a similar 3-5-3, right?
Odd stack 3-3.
Odd stack.
5, yes, sir.
Yeah, and Ignatius the same?
Yes. So we go against the same thing.
Right. You go against
a little bit different schemes, a little bit different blitzes and personnel, but we go against the same thing in practice. That helps, and we've been progressing against it since week 3, so I think that's helped us as well.
Right. And now, when you were a sophomore, did you beat them or did they beat you at home?
My sophomore year, we beat them at their place, yes.
Okay. Well, it was a game that you had lost to them. Did like the blitzes? Because there's the only game I've ever seen that they got to you. Did the blitzes come from like different areas? Maybe that now that won't happen.
Yeah, I think the past 2 times we played them, we've lost. And it was last year in the regional championship, and this year at their place. And it's a complicated defense,
right.
and they run the system well under Chuck Colley. Does a great job with that defense, and just mixing up blitzes and confusing the O-line and rattling quarterback. I think that's what they do best. But we've been preparing a lot, and that's what we got to get ready for. If we can handle their pressure, we don't think they could guard them one-on-one, and we'll go up top to Brandon and the other guys, and that's what we're trying to.
And Reese, facing the best offense maybe in the history of the game every week in practice, 8 weeks since the time that they beat you, has to improve that defense immensely of yours.
Yeah, definitely, because like Mitch was saying, we do face a top offense every day in practice. So once it comes to game time and we're playing another top caliber offense, it's going to help us out. And especially with the new with Nick DeLisa running the ball so well, if he runs it on us in practice, it does help us against a running back like Tim McVeigh.
Well, great point about that, and you alluded a little bit more to that, where when you spread 5 out wide, I mean, having a back like Nick DeLisa, where we didn't see that earlier on in the year, right. How that's exploiting all these defenses, because he breaks that first line, boom, he's gaining 20, 25, 30, sometimes breaking them.
That's
you want
huge.
to talk a little bit about
it's
that?
Been huge for us. Nick's not the biggest kid, but he doesn't have to be, because he's quick and he runs hard and he has great vision. It helps that he could hide behind our line up front, and then he just bursts through the hole. And he's really come along. And after week 3, and they haven't seen that yet. So a steady run game is a lot different than last year. It's been helping me a lot, and it helps bring a lot of balance to this offense. And it's been a great thing. And there's a lot of weapons to cover on this offense, and he adds another great weapon to the offense.
You've got to respect that, because a lot of times the play action too is
right.
that you think he's got the ball, he doesn't. You have it,
go up top.
Yeah, and
exactly.
you go up top. And another thing is, I don't know how much your North Carolina coach is liking it, but you can run the ball with the best of them. And you see that hole, and I'm sure he doesn't want you to get hit, but it doesn't bother you. You always get up. But
I love running the ball. Coach doesn't want to call my number all the time until it comes down to we have to get something. But they try to limit my hits, but I want to carry the ball, because that's what helps the offense, keeping the defense honest and keeping them on their heels, and then go off of that with a pad opens things up.
No question. You pass it. I got a question for Brandon before. I know Ray's got something on his mind. All right, you had an opportunity to play in the regional championship game in basketball last year, and that has to help you back-to-back games. I mean, think about, you played in that game, and now you played in maybe 2 of even bigger games. It has to help you prepare for St. Ignatius.
Yeah, absolutely. You never really forget that the pain of defeat in those regional championship games. So those are always good. Always using those as motivation, and you just always remember that feeling and that the last second ticks and you lose. So definitely against Ignatius, we're going to come out and we're going to keep that in our minds.
This isn't too much of a question as it is just a comment. You know, Charlie and I were fortunate enough to call the back-to-back state title games not too many years ago that Mentor was involved in. We followed them all the way, and then we got to call those title games. And, of course, both games came out on the short end. One a real thriller to the last second, overtime, whatever, and then the other one was kind of a blowout game. I really do. I mean, those were 2 great teams. You don't get there if you're not great. You just don't. You got to have a little luck, but you got to have a lot of talent. I see this team that you guys are on right now as having a lot more, I guess, versatility than those teams. I mean, I remember the one game was a nice game for a half. Some of you guys may have been there, you know. It was a nice game for a half weather-wise. And in the locker room, when you guys both teams went in the locker room, it turned into an ice storm. It was bad, you know. And at that point, you didn't have the running game like you had now. So you did what you had to do. You stayed with the passing game. It worked. You know, the other team was Hilliard Davidson, if I'm not mistaken. Run, and they came out on top. You were right there. Mentor was right there. But this year, with the emergence of that running game, all kind of weather, it's not going to affect you as much. I just feel real good about that. Anybody want to respond to that? I mean, you're very balanced is what I'm trying to say. Where in years past, the passing game's always been there, best of all. Now you've got that running game.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very balanced, as you said. He's a great runner. Mitch is a great runner. Matt Schaefer is a great runner. Connor's a great runner.
Hey.
And they just do a great job of opening up everything for each other and stuff. So, and it opens the passing game, obviously. And so, I mean, the sky's the limit for this team.
Reese?
Great balance. It really
we talked about matchups tonight. What might have been the biggest coaching move in the history of the game, because you had given up how many halftime points the first half? How many was it? The halftime score was 40
something.
45, 38. What was said in the locker room for a halftime adjustments, which was probably one of the biggest coaching changes that made a team win? What was said by Coach Funk?
What he basically told us was we just have to believe. After they were scoring on us repeatedly, everyone was just getting down. They were sitting on the bench, heads down, thinking we were down and out. But every time we would come onto the sidelines, Funk, the other defensive coaches, Coach Wilcox, Coach Kusar, they were just telling us we got to have confidence. Our offense is going to score. We have to have confidence in ourselves and believe that we can stop them. Believe.
That was the word, believe.
Yep.
And you did. I mean, to get those stops back-to-back, that was 4 stops in a row that led to the victory. And because if they would have kept scoring, matching it would have been 70-63 or something, but it didn't happen that way. So you got to feel a lot of confidence going into this game because you were able to do that and should be able now to stop Tim McVeigh, because they don't have another offensive weapon like Mitch has. Mitch can go to the well so many different ways, and they don't have that. They may have some good wide receivers and some good. He's got great, and they don't have the quarterback Menor has, because he's great. And to be able to stop him should be the key to winning the ball game, I think.
Yeah. Well, we know when the defense plays as a unit, there's definitely been times throughout the year when the defense plays as a unit, and we're phenomenal. The game against Brunswick, I think, what was that, a shutout, I believe? 7, or they put up 7 on us, or a shutout. We played as a unit for most of the game. Brunswick was expected to put up a bunch of points on us. We played as a unit, and we showed out in that game. Also against Twinsburg, a great Twinsburg offense. Their quarterback
Washington was
very
tough,
versatile,
right?
Yeah. And we just played as a unit, and we got it done. I think that's going to be the key against Ignatius.
Greg Pruitt, of course, a great running back who was with us with a Super Bowl ring, cited the years when the cardiac kids were so tough for the Cleveland Browns. It was the chemistry. It was the chemistry. And you heard Coach Sam say, give me a team with chemistry and give me a team with just all talent but no chemistry. That chemistry team will beat the other team. And I sense that's what you guys got going. It's always been that family atmosphere. It starts with Coach Triv, comes down to the senior leadership. And, now is when you need that more than ever. These next 3 games, it's just coming together the way it should. Your injuries are not major right now. Everything's there. Just take it. Go with it. Good luck to every one of you.
Well, I'll be on the call, so I'm pretty excited about that. And, we just take it 1 week at a time. And we'll see you December 10th right here for the biggest party Menor High School has ever seen in their lives. Congratulations on one of the greatest wins ever. Let's keep it going. Menor Cardinals right here. Great job, Brandon. We'll do it, man. 3 more.
Good luck.
Mitch, thanks for coming. Mitch Trubisky, Reese Armstrong, Brandon Fritz, and Brandon Short. Wow. 3 super athletes and better persons. They made it out here tonight to be a part of the show. Chance to meet Greg Pruitt and Sam Artigliano. I'd like to thank Jeff Casella for making it happen. Coach Triv. Ray, another great show. A lot of fun here at Cleats. And we'd like to thank the Salianides and our good buddy Glenn Foley and our good friend back at the station, Alan Parrish. Next week, we'll be right back here for our wrestling preview show, which is just usually one of the biggest shows we have all year. We've got, I think, 10 schools coming.
You know, we're so into this playoff run, and rightfully so, with all these area teams still alive. We certainly wish the best to the Kirtland Hornets, the Chagrin Falls Tigers, the Chardon Hilltoppers, and the Aurora Greenmen. I don't know if we've ever had this many teams at point in the playoffs still alive, and all of them with great shots to keep going. The only one that's going to be one's going to drop by is the Chardon playing Aurora, but everybody else can take that next step. And you mentioned wrestling. I mean, even though this is on everybody's mind right now, the football playoffs, as they go deeper. Hey, I got basketball tomorrow night. The colleges are tipping off. High schools are right around the corner. Wrestling. So the beat goes on, and we are going to cover that as we always do on our show, starting with wrestling and then basketball preview, then the girls, and it's just great. It's all about the kids, and they're making Lake County area very proud right now.
Keep it tuned right here Friday and Saturday night for high school playoffs. Friday night it'll be the Hilltoppers in Aurora, and Saturday night it'll be St. Ignatius and the Menor Cardinals. Tonight's program is brought to you by D&W Goods, Pepco, Clements Construction, Matrix Tool, Menor Family Foods, Francis Stone, and Kramer Printing. You're listening to Mondays with Malta, brought to you by WELW 1330 AM and www.WLW.com. Thank you. Have a safe drive home.